Just trying something different today. Going to do a quick walk-in into the bee yard, but hopefully everybody can see the goldenrod behind me, or well, what's left of it. It is done blooming and has turned into well, it's turned into that. So there's still some in the area that's nice and golden and blooming, but for the most part it's kind of past its cycle. So I'm anticipating having to feed the bees a lot more in the next few weeks and probably throughout the winter. So welcome to Cole's Farm, and let's take a walk into the bee yard. Alright, welcome back everybody. It's October 14th. It's about 12:30. This is week number 4's inspection for hives 2 and 3. It's 67 degrees and feels like it, and the humidity is about 87%. The weather bug app has the pollen at 3.4, which is ragweed and grasses. It's been about 2 full weeks since I've supplemented any 2-to-1 syrup, and the reason for that is they were looking rather honey bound. So instead of causing more harm than good, I stopped feeding them so they could capitalize on the last week or so bloom of the goldenrod, which that is completely dried up now. I thought we were about 3 weeks behind in the season. The goldenrod's supposed to go all the way to the end of October, but in this area it looks like it's pretty much reached its the end of its cycle. So I'm just going to give the hives a quick lift to try and teach myself what a heavy or a light hive feels like, and then look inside, of course, to determine the difference between what I felt and how the hive is looking. Probably goes without saying, but I'm anticipating and more so hoping that they've capped a lot of the stored nectar from 2 weeks ago and look pretty good for the winter, but we'll see how things look. I have a feeling I'm probably going to end up supplementing them 2-to-1 syrup throughout the winter, which is no big deal because you want your colonies to survive and roll into the spring booming. So got the tops, I got the straps off the top, so let's pop the tops and see how hive number 2 is looking. Frame number 2, I decided to pull that out first because last time, frame number 1, just being an older frame, needed to be repaired out here, so I decided to pull that out first and then I'll pull frame number 1 out. Hopefully it doesn't fall apart on me. Or maybe that was the other colony, I'm not sure. This colony, judging by the activity in the front, seems to be not as busy as colony number 3. And they are extremely calm. Frame number 3 on the outside, well, the side that faces the outside of the hive. Nice stored nectar. Same on this side. Maybe they'll cap it in the next few weeks. Frame 3. Frame 4, some nectar as well on both sides. Frame 5 has got some weight to it, nectar stored throughout, kind of a spotty brood pattern, somewhat of a concern. I don't recall seeing the queen last time on this one. Yeah, spotty brood pattern, this queen might, I don't know. I kind of would be surprised if she made it through the winter. This hive does concern me. Doesn't look so good as the other one. Frame 6, pretty much in the middle of the colony. Kind of a spotty brood pattern, but some of those may have hatched lately. Because I didn't see the queen last time, I'm hoping to spot some eggs. And there's a lot of spun, yeah, okay. There's a lot of spun larvae and there's eggs throughout. So the queen is still here. No real need to see her, but I'm going to continue with the inspection just because this is somewhat of a questionable colony to me. This is frame 7, somewhat of a better brood pattern on the side that faces the interior of the hive. These bees are just extremely calm. And this side looks a little better. Those spotty, the spots in between have stored nectar, so maybe that has something to do with it. I think I found the queen one of the other times on the very last few frames, 9 and 10. Well, 8, 9, or 10, I guess. frame number 8. It almost seems like the brood chamber is frames 7 through 10. So, I'm not sure if I should move things around, put them in the center, which is kind of normally where they're located. Taking some extra time on this because I think I might find the queen. Well, more so hoping than thinking. This frame's pretty light. Not too much going on, just some very random capped brood, but then it does appear to be some, yeah, there's eggs throughout this, so like I said, it looks like the brood chamber's on the left side of the hive, so I think I'm going to move some stuff around, just going to make a decision, and you know, time will tell. So I'm going to end up moving frames 7, maybe 7, 8, and 9, depending how 10 looks here in a sec, to the center of the hive. There's the queen right there in the center, moving to the top. So she's still here. And I guess my eyes are getting kind of better. She's crawling over a bunch of cells that have stored nectar. Center to the right, or well, to the right of center. About 2 inches down, moving up. Just gonna watch her for a second. The bees are definitely not moving out of her way like in the other colonies. Yeah, I don't know if this frame is, or this hive is necessarily honeybound, but it looks like she's having a hard time looking for places to lay. So I'm gonna slide some stuff around real quick now that I know where she's at. That's empty, that's empty. Let's see. So she's there. through some nectar. Not much anything. Alright, so that was frame number 2, or I'm sorry, hive number 2. Pretty quick and easy, maybe 15 minutes or so. Found the queen again for the second time in 4 weeks on the very left side of the colony on frames 9 or 10, which is basically where the bulk of the brood is. So I made the decision to rearrange a few frames, as you saw, and put the brood back into the center. So in about 2 weeks, kind of curious to see where we found the queen again, and whether or not the brood is still in the same location. So that's pretty much it for frame or hive number 2. I'm going to take a short break, get set up for hive number 3's inspection, and see how that stuff looks. Okay, we're all set up to inspect hive number 3. Move the camera off of the stand because last week's video, or maybe the week before, I noticed that having the camera set up on the stand, every time I basically messed with the hive, everything was shaking. So now that I figured that out, that it's best to have the camera off of the stand, let's get into hive number 3 and see how things are looking. Okay, so with this hive, when I come out here just to kind of look at the bees in the afternoon and everything, this hive seems to have a whole lot more activity going on, and it does make sense because as soon as I pop the top, there's a whole lot of bees in the outer cover and on top of the inner cover. So I anticipate this hive being a little busier and possibly looking a little healthier. If I can spot the queen in this hive as well, this week's inspection on hives 2 and 3 will please me greatly. Alright, this is the hive that had the broken frame, and I put it in number 2's position. I can tell because the nails are new. So I'm going to try and pull frame 1 out and then take my time with frame number 2. And just looking at frame number 4 real quick, let's take a quick peek inside. This is what I think a very healthy hive looks like. You can see all the comb sticking together, and what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Frame 6 appears to have some nice capped honey, so we'll see how things look here in a sec. Man, that thing it was stuck and heavy. And look at this. This is what I have really been anticipating to see going into, well, this colony's first winter. So a lot of nectar on this side, some of it's starting to be capped, the other side for sure. That's looking good. So that's frame number 1. Frame number 2 is the one that was broke last time, so let's see if I can get this out of here without it falling apart. Oh yeah, frame number 2 is still pretty heavy. A lot of stored nectar, some capped honey, and same thing on this side, some capped honey, a whole lot of stored nectar. Frame 3, still drawing out some comb. And same thing on this side, some newly drawn out comb and stored nectar. So they're still working some kind of source. Oh wow, frame 4 is heavy. This is the frame that had the nicely new drawn comb up top. Some capped honey, some capped brood. I'm looking in between. We got some spun larvae. Trying to find an egg or two. Nothing on that side. On the looking to the right from the bottom, some capped honey, stored nectar, a lot of brood, surrounded by some more capped honey. So we'll see how the rest looks, of course, to determine whether or not they're on the verge of being honey bound, but they definitely have enough, well, they have plenty of stored food for now. Most likely I'll end up supplementing some 2-to-1 sugar water just to get them through the winter. Frame number 5, nice capped honey. some brood. Trying to spot an egg, but it's kind of overcast today, which makes it a little more difficult. Yeah, this hive's looking pretty nice. Not as heavy as the last frame. This is for frame number 6. Looking pretty good. Let's see. Yeah, we got eggs to the left of the cap brood. That's just to the right of center. There's eggs throughout. So this queen's still doing her thing. She's still laying eggs in any available cell. And that's a nice looking brood pattern. We got some capped drone brood, capped honey, some stored nectar, some stored pollen. See if we can find the queen. This is frame 7. Yeah, some nice capped honey. Some spotty brood, but if you look closer, all those empty cells have spun larvae and you can clearly see eggs. So at first, concerning, but then when you look closer, things actually look pretty healthy. And if I hold the frame back some, I'm trying to work on my queen spotting technique. So I'm thinking if I hold the frame back a little bit, maybe I'll be able to see her, because usually she's moving pretty quick, and of course her size usually helps, you know, make her stand out rather easy. Alright, so 7. This is frame number 8. It's got a little bit of weight to it, not as much as the others. Clearly, not as much capped honey. No queen yet. frame number 9. These two queens, these are the adopted hives, if you want to call them that I adopted about a month ago. But these two queens are rather odd, I guess. You could describe it as that. And the reason I say that is because it looks like their egg-laying pattern, which puts the bulk of the brood pattern, is typically on the very left side of the hives, frames 7 through 10. We're on frame number 9 right now, and there is a lot of brood on this frame. Frame number 10, it's got some weight to it, a lot of nice stored pollen. I haven't really made too much of an effort to spot the queen in this colony. I spotted eggs early on, maybe frames 4 or 5. That's pretty. That's a lot of dark capped honey because, well, just old comb probably. And nice pollen, nice stored pollen. Alright, I'm going to wrap things up real quick, close this hive up. Frame number 1 or 2 has a lot of stored nectar, and I left it out exposed, so I'm trying to prevent any sort of robbing situation. So I'm just going to close it up and then we'll sum up what I saw. Alright, well, it's October 14th, and that was week number 4's inspection for hives 2 and 3. Kind of as suspected, hive number 2, I'm saying it's a little on the weak side. I'm going to supplement both of them some sugar water tomorrow. Same batch. I'm going to be using 2 half-gallon mason jars. They hold 5.5 pounds each, so 11 pounds of syrup. I think that'll work nicely considering it's mid-October. That should bring them through, well, it should bring them to November. I'll take a look again just to see how they're looking as far as honeybound goes. Hive number 3 for sure makes me feel more comfortable going into winter because it had a lot of stored honey, capped honey, stored nectar, which should be capped here soon if they don't consume it, pollen. And in fact, they're bringing in pollen, which means they're still making brood, which is great. Same thing for hive number 2. I was able to find hive number 2's queen. I wasn't looking as hard for 3 because I spotted eggs in both, but the icing on the cake was I just happened to find hive number 2's queen on frame 9 or 10. So the queens are still there. They're still making a lot of baby bees, a lot of eggs, spun larvae, just brood in all kinds of different stages. Not too many drone brood cells, which is, good for now. I'll just be doing my due diligence and keep an eye on them, inspecting them every 2 weeks, and just kind of see how things go. The number one goal, just like I started early in the spring, is to get all my colonies through the winter. And if I can do that, I will call myself a successful beekeeper. And then next spring, rolling into swarm season, if I can prevent any swarms, I think that'll also make me feel good, and I'll consider myself successful at that point. So that's hive number 2 and 3's inspection for week number 4. Thanks for watching. As always, if you see anything weird that I'm doing, or if you have any tips or tricks or anything, just post your feedback in the comments. I appreciate everybody's support, and tune in next week for hive number 1, the original hive. That's going to be week 26, 7, or 8. I think it's 28, week 28's inspection. So thanks again. Bye.